The world is changing, and so is the local taxi industry. The arrival of ride-sharing companies such as Uber and Grab has really shaken up the status quo, and it has disrupted the way taxis are being hailed and booked and experienced. Bye-bye street hailing and hello smartphone booking. Just last week, government agency SPAD announced the much-awaited taxi industry transformation plan.
The bottom line is to meningkatkan perkhidmatan taksi dan kereta sewa di dalam negara kita.
A plan that, according to the government, is the latest move to liberalize the taxi industry. Now, my question is, will the reforms improve the taxi industry? There is no easy answer for this, but it appears to be a step in the right direction despite tons of resistance from the taxi companies. The reform plan introduced a slew of measures, one of which includes a new rule to regulate Uber and Grab. At the same time, it also includes a lifeline for the current taxi drivers to exit the decades-old rental system, commonly known as the pajak system or simply jail. The pajak system ties drivers to the taxi license holders, forcing them to buy their cars under a rental system, often at unfavorable terms. For drivers, life is hard. Not only must they bear their own maintenance and fuel cost, but fares have not risen as fast as costs. This resulted in mediocre service, where taxi drivers often avoid using meters and act like a king on the road, driving like Lewis Hamilton to increase ride frequency.
Turn 3 we go, and it's Nico Rosberg and Hamilton's onto the grass, and Hamilton's had a massive crash, and he's crashed into his teammate!
Under the current terms, taxi drivers are unable to make a decent living despite working crazy hours while competing with new entrants like Uber and Grab. Now, to help drivers exit from this hell, the government is giving 5,000 ringgit to eligible taxi drivers to buy their own taxis, which will enable them to obtain individual taxi licenses. At last, a white knight to the rescue. Estimates say that some 77,000 registered taxi drivers will benefit from this initiative. Meanwhile, the rise of ride-sharing companies such as Uber and Grab is a wake-up call for a sleepy taxi industry which is often seen as inefficient. As they have shown, disruptive technology is no longer a foreign term. Get too comfortable and you might just be disrupted into bankruptcy. And part of the government's reform plan also includes giving official recognition to and legalizing ride-sharing companies, which means that it is now legal for Uber and Grab to operate ride-sharing services in Malaysia without facing the risk of being banned like in France and Germany, or set on fire in some cases. Just look at this video from CNN.
Travel chaos, stone throwing and fistfights. In Paris, Marseille and Lyon and other cities, airport entrances were blocked and expressways were shut down by burning tires.
For most taxi operators and drivers in Malaysia, the reform plan is a painful one. Some of them are saying that the competition is too intense and eventually drive them out of business. Big Blue Taxi Services founder Datuk Syamsul Bahrain Ismail says the government's reform plan will destroy the taxi industry and that some taxi drivers will stage a protest against the new decision. Well, that's not surprising. In May, we already saw this happen when hundreds of taxi drivers blocked roads in the city centre, causing traffic to come to a standstill. This is all because they want the government to ban ride-sharing companies, particularly Uber and Grab. And of course, as the taxi companies maintain the status quo. But in the government's defense, this reform is necessary, which is in line with changing market forces that will create a level playing field, which will benefit drivers, operators and passengers alike. Not just the licensed and privileged few. And my take is this: there have been too many problems plaguing the taxi industry for far too long. You name it, indiscipline, overcharging, poor services, appalling road etiquette, and to some extent, even sexual misconduct. Look, the public are sick of taxi drivers and their nonsense. And it is ridiculous that taxi drivers can refuse to send passengers to certain locations on grounds of too far, too jam, or wrong timing. And it is hard to find taxis in some areas too, especially if your place is as remote as Narnia. You know, you don't get this kind of problem with Uber or Grab. They are very transparent in charging their customers, and there will always be a willing driver to send you to your destination. So, the new reform plan is very timely, given that consumers are tired of dealing with all these issues. And hats off to the government for moving so quickly on this. It's not perfect yet, of course, but given the current situation, it is definitely a step in the right direction. And look, the government is not exactly popular right now. Anything it does is always criticized. I mean, we've all lost count of the numbers of times it shot itself in the foot. But I believe that no matter what, credit should be given where it is due. In this one instance, I say, job well done. Well, at least for now. Just saying.